You judge your progress still by the metric you're trying to improve, but that is in the long term. In the short term, strength increases are still the most reliable indicator of muscle growth. How do you judge progress in your training? Now, in the first video in this series, we discussed establishing a good degree of training intensity to begin with. After that, you add in more volume as desire and need dictates. We've also looked at training intensity and the idea that training to failure isn't actually necessary, it's secondary to performance increases. So now let's consider, how do we actually judge progress? So ultimately, you judge your progress by the metric you're trying to improve. That is, if you want bigger muscles, then in the long term, you judge that via the tape measure or how you look in the mirror. The problem with that is these improvements take a long time to show up, so we need something which lets us know we're on track in the short term. Performance increases are still the most reliable indicator of muscle growth. Being able to do more reps with the same weight or more weight are indicators your muscles are bigger than they previously were. That is the most reliable indicator we have of muscle growth in the short term. However, there is a big catch in all of this, and that is that conditions must remain the same. Your range of motion, speed of your reps, using a stretch reflex or a bounce or a spotter, the rest even between the repetitions, all of these factors must remain consistent to be able to judge progress via increased reps or more weight on the bar. You can break this system and cheat yourself out of a useful metric to judge progress. And I see this every single day at the gym. By allowing poundage increases to come before form and consistency of exercise execution, you are actually taking it easy on yourself. I've always said, lean into the pain, make it harder for yourself. Don't take that extra rest at the top of a squat. It drives me nuts when I see guys resting 3, 4, 5 seconds at the top of a squat rep. Go down to those painful but safe portions of the repetition where you get the most growth. Don't bounce the weight. Don't cut your volume to enable you to do more weight, and don't speed up your reps. By doing all of those things, you're actually making life easy for yourself. What you want to do is you want to take yourself into that golden zone of growth where everything is difficult. It takes everything you have inside and outside the gym to get those extra 1 or 2 reps or that extra 5 pounds or 2.5 kilo on the bar. You need to get used to the discomfort of living in that golden zone. That is what gets you results. Every guy who's big, strong, and natural knows that golden zone and lives there for the majority of the year. That is how it's done. By doing all those things and being inconsistent with your form, you are cheating yourself out of those gains. Keep everything consistent and really work for that performance increase. That is how it's done. How hard you work, that is the question of whether you train to failure or use an RIR approach. They are fine tools, but they are secondary to performance increases. So for example, you can train to failure, but that's not going to guarantee your muscle growth, because if you don't do enough volume or frequency, it might not happen. You could also use an RIR approach. However, if you do too much volume, that's also not going to result in muscle growth. So your intensity of training is still secondary to performance increases. Training to failure is not going to guarantee muscle growth. In summary, how do we judge progress over time? We need to ensure we have demonstrable strength increases. That is, doing more reps with the same weight or adding more weight to the bar with consistent form. That is how you know in the short term you're making progress towards your goal. You judge your progress still by the metric you're trying to improve, but that is in the long term. In the short term, strength increases are still the most reliable indicator of muscle growth. That is how you judge your progress. All right, thanks for listening. At the time of recording, I have exactly 4 more spots available for coaching, and after that, I'll be taking on no more. If you'd like to be considered, then there's a link in the description. Get in touch. Let's talk.